Hi, it's Tess, and I thought I'd go live, get this done for today earlier. I'm going to be off the don't this and do this instead. I do still have it, and I'll probably pick it up tomorrow. But today I thought I'd talk about something a little bit different. My mom's family, or my mom's side, has a breakfast where they get together once a month, and I took my mom this morning. And it was really interesting because it kind of started to make me look at some things differently. And actually, I probably hate to admit this, but we often hear that our generation is weak compared to like prior generations. And I have to say, from some of the stories I heard, it is true. Things I've learned over the process of the past couple of years by doing like some research in the days of being in lockdown. I did some research on family history and found out a lot of things that, even though I may be one or two generations past, that I never knew about. But it's very interesting. Well, hi, you, Pendra. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. It just made me realize there's a lot of information that we don't know that maybe even shed some light on why people react certain ways. And today what I've found out is that I'm going to say it's probably a great-great-grandfather. There might be another great in there, I'm not sure, was a Civil War veteran. And there's been a lot of military in my family. It goes way, way, way back. But of course, it's probably stronger on one side of the family than the other because they were here stateside for a lot longer period of time. And so there's a lot of war type things or records, like somebody was telling me that we're part of the generations that received $600 towards college education. I don't know a lot about that. I tried to research it. I didn't find it. If he watches this, I'm sure he'll reach out and tell me more about it. But what's interesting is I started looking at like even both sides of the family. For those, I haven't talked about this in a long time, but I did some research on another side of my family, and they were actually they're recent immigrants from Poland. And when they arrived here in the U.S., they spoke English, but they didn't read it or write it. And great-grands never read or write English. So it kind of was a different kind of a life. But we talk a lot about this generation as having it easy. And as much as I don't always want to admit that, I guess I have to look at it and say, yes, in some cases it definitely is true. I really recently found out in the past couple of years that my grandmother was, and I've talked about it because I went up to where she was born in an area where there were log rollers. There were gentlemen that would jump out on logs and break up the log jams so that the logs could move down like Lake Superior. And when his body got to where he couldn't handle it, they went into Buffalo, New York, and he worked there until he died at a young age. But what I never knew is that at 16 years old, my grandmother was sent back to Detroit to work in Polish bakeries so that she could send money home since her father had passed away young. And I started thinking, you know what? We've got it really easy compared to what some of our previous generations had. And what I'm finding is that connecting up with people and finding out what they know that maybe you don't know is just kind of interesting. It sheds light on things. It opens up your eyes. It actually lets you meet people that maybe you met briefly when you were young and that you didn't get to connect to very much because of age being a factor. But it's kind of interesting because when I look at my own family background, there's two huge differences. There's the one side that was newly immigrants, and then the other side that was established for a number of years that worked farms in the South. So it's a very different life because those that came in, immigrants, were in the factories. They came in through Ellis Island, and they worked in the factories, and then the other ones worked down in the South on farms. So it's kind of interesting, and it makes you see the differences in personalities and what their values were. And it kind of can tell you how you came up through things too, and why maybe you are leaning one direction over another. And as much as I hate to admit it, life is easier in a lot of ways for this generation than some of the previous generations. But it's very interesting. So if you have an opportunity, I'd highly recommend that if there are people still in your life that can share stories or information that maybe you don't know, it's kind of interesting to take a look at it. There's a part of me that wishes I could go back into some of my, grandparents that are no longer here, tell them how amazed I am at the things that they accomplished. I mean, I can't imagine myself at 16 years old being sent states away to earn a living to send money home, because that's not anything that this generation is asked to do. So I just thought it was really interesting to spend time with people that know different parts about your family history, just so that you can kind of share. It's interesting. You know, it's not like something you need to get all upset and angry about, but it's kind of a history thing that kind of lets you see how people evolved or how they became who they are. And it lets you see them in a little bit different light. And it's interesting. It's fun. I am a puzzle person. I love to take puzzles. And that goes back to one of my grandmothers, the one that taught me 4-leaf clovers and puzzles. If it was wintertime, we were building puzzles. If it was summertime, we were finding 4-leaf clovers. But it's interesting to take a few minutes to look at your family history and maybe learn a little bit about the people that you always saw in a certain light, but you didn't see how they ended up becoming the people that they were. So if you get an opportunity, maybe look into that and see what life was for those people before us, because as much as I hate to admit it, life has been a whole lot easier for me because of a lot of things that they did. Thank you for being here. Have a beautiful day, and I'll go back to the don't this, but that tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.